Here are 50 random and, not gonna lie, mostly useless facts about Clash of Clans. If you look closely, the Money in the Bag decoration has the Goblin Builder's face on the bills. And just like that, it vanished. Nah, I'm playing, I actually like him. A Barbarian King equipped with Vamp Stash and a Snake Bracelet will allow him to attack faster than the Giga Inferno can deal damage to him. As you know, the pet Sneezy spawns boogers. Interestingly though, these boogers were called Snotties before release. However, there's no photographic evidence of this, so you just have to trust me. This is because by the time the sneak peeks came out, they had changed the name to boogers. The spectator limit in Legends League is 10. In comparison, as mentioned in a previous facts video, the spectator limit for Clan Wars is 30. Before release, the Alchemist had a slightly different gemstone on her staff. Before, the colors purple, yellow, and green could be seen almost blending into each other. But the final version has a gemstone with a metal separator between the colors. And the color green is also blocked by this metal piece. It's unknown why the change, but yeah. Town Halls 3, 2, and 1 look the exact same in Clan Wars. This is because developers never anticipated those lower town halls to be in a war in the first place, as clan castles aren't normally repaired until Town Hall 3. But over the years, players have found ways to achieve the impossible. You may have noticed that giants have a red patch when they're sitting in the army camp or during a battle, but in the info screen that patch is brown, the same color as the rest of the outfit. Well, that's because once upon a time the patch was brown in the gameplay as well. It was only after Clash Royale came out where they swapped the models with that version, and because giants in Clash Royale are either blue or red, they just went with the red one. The Yeti originally had more than one deploy sound, which could be heard in its official launch video. It's likely that this was simply a placeholder. It could also be a reused asset that I'm not aware of, but the Yeti never launched with that deploy sound. Unlike builders, Otto doesn't always have a hammer. It's only equipped when he's upgrading something. During the Holland event, the villager in the tutorial was replaced with Holland himself. This was the first time in Clash history where the villager was replaced and nowhere to be seen. According to their description, the two henchmen from the henchman puppet are siblings. When the Arabic language was first added to the game, there was a harmless but comical error in the translation of the spring trap. It translated literally as the spring season, not the other kind of spring. Now, translation errors happen all of the time, but this one was just hilarious. Sneezy is a female. The Lassie statue in the Kawaii Giant decoration is a reference to a real statue known as the Hachiko statue, which is a bronze statue of the Akita dog after the same name. It's located outside of the Shibuya station in Tokyo, Japan. I have no idea if I said any of that correct. The April 2025 loading screen startup sound was the first one since 2012 to use the shorter version of it. The Rue Rider was originally going to show a stat on how much damage it would do to walls. According to sneak peeks, this would have been 10,000 at every level. However, when launched, this stat was excluded from the info screen, probably because it was unnecessary. I mean, it will break the wall anyway. What does it matter what damage it does if it does the same damage at every level? The Alchemist walks slower than the other two helpers. This is likely an Easter egg indicating that her age has an effect on her speed. The trader owns two hats that he wears on special occasions, a Santa hat worn during Christmas and a party hat worn during anniversary events. Though I don't believe I've seen him in that party hat for a while, but he is wearing it in the piece of cake decoration. The maximum amount of loot stolen that could ever be achieved was 6.3 million of gold and elixir and about 42,000 dark elixir. This was only possible during the 2024 Hammer Jam, where collectors produced and contained 3 times more loot than they usually did. The level 11 giant bomb is the only level where, when unarmed, its wooden barrels do not open. It's possible to be at 5,000 trophies and still be able to technically search for an attack. This is only possible as an unranked player at 5,000 or more trophies. However, I say technically because it's very likely that if you do search, the game will give you an error. By tapping and holding a siege machine or a clan castle, it will show you what's inside. Some of you may have already known this for years, but it's just one of those hidden mechanics, I guess. This is a graph of the build times during every major update that affected progression. According to the graph, the slowest modern year in Clash history was 2022, taking an average of 4 years or more to max. This makes total sense, considering that back then there were upgrades that took over 20 days. Fortunately for us, this has dramatically decreased over the years, and if there were a 2025 portion of the graph, the number would be way lower. According to its description, the revive spell was made by the healer. It's her own special recipe. The upgrade time text in the German language of the game is so long that it's the only language where it extends into a second line. Why would you ever need to know that? I don't know. I mean, hey, the title said random. If everything is made invisible with an invisibility, including any targetable defenses, troops will generally just sit there and wait. However, there are exceptions in that both kinds of wall breakers will still target walls, and siege machines targeting tunnel halls will keep going. In the military scene, there is a goblin sneaking around in a box. This is referencing the game Metal Gear Solid, where you can hide inside a box to sneak past enemies. Also in the same scenery, there is a hog rider with a minigun just spraying at the trees. This is referencing a scene in the 1987 movie The Predator, where a group of men are doing the exact same thing, spraying at the trees. What they were trying to do was kill the Predator, which they cannot see because it went invisible. North Korea has its own version of Clash of Clans that is called Fortress Defense when translated. It's unknown who developed it, but it's basically a rip-off of Clash of Clans. I mean, it's almost a one-to-one copy, with the exception of a few additions like new troops and more decorations available for purchase. Originally, laboratories didn't have any light coming out of them, or any animation for that matter. This was added in the January 2013 update, where a light would flash on and off as an indication that they were in use. But players weren't really a big fan of the flashing lights, so this was changed about a month later to what we're more familiar with today. You may or may not have noticed that troops that are spelled in abbreviations like the P.E.K.K.A., MoMA, or Lassie never end in a period, despite it being grammatically correct if it did end in a period. Well, according to developer Stuart, it all started with how the P.E.K.K.A. was spelled. Whoever named the P.E.K.K.A. did it this way, so they just ran with it without ever knowing why it was like that in the first place. Destroying a Town Hall 17 counts toward the anti-artillery achievement, as it technically has an Eagle artillery in it. The Furnace holds a unique record for the troop with the least amount of time where it had a training time, which is just 3 days. This is because the Furnace was added on March 24th, 2025, and training times were removed on the 27th. If you're curious, that training time was 2 minutes and 30 seconds each. Town Hall 9 is called the Dark Castle. Its name was given to it in a social media post during its release. This may seem odd, naming an upgrade, but Clash of Clans used to do this all of the time back then. Like the level 9 and 10 walls, I'm pretty certain I mentioned this in a previous episode, but they have names. The squid-looking monster in the high sea scenery is referencing a mythical creature known as the Kraken, a sea monster that was said to appear in the Norwegian Sea off the coast of Norway. You may also be familiar with it from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. The clone spell has the highest clan council requirement out of all spells, needing a level 10, unlocked at Town Hall 14. This is because of its 3 housing space. At the time of its release, it was the only spell that couldn't be donated. In fact, back then, it was 4 housing space, so if it remained at 4, it would still be impossible to donate it. If you look closely when you merge your defenses, they aren't moving. One just appears above it and moves while your actual defense simply disappears. They're pulling a little switcheroni on you. Legends League is the only league in the game where you can get this kind of defense in your log. Literally nothing on it. This is only possible because every attack in Legends League counts, even the ones where you drop nothing. For only 2 days in February 2025, the free spell underwent a pretty significant effect change, looking more like snow dropped on an area. However, this effect was reverted back to its original because of some scaling issues, like the freeze from an ice golem being way bigger than it should have been. However, it's been said that this effect may return one day. The barbarian spawned from the Painter's King is referencing Bob Ross. He was a painter who had a television series all about painting, and one of his iconic features was his afro, which is why the barbarians all have one. Yeah, they're not miniature ice spices. Despite not having an antenna anymore, the level 10 pet house and onward will still play the spark animation, and you can still see the outline of the antenna that is not there. Hero banners are the only form of untargetable buildings that prevent areas where troops can be deployed. The Trojan horse in the war arena scenery is likely inspired by a killed Clash Royale card that was the same thing. The longest maintenance break in Clash history was approximately 21 hours, but not everyone was affected. This was during the global and China server separation, where players in China were transferred over to the Chinese version of Clash of Clans. The full bar in Clan Wars doesn't actually get full. There's a pretty large gap that remains, literally unplayable. In the anime scenery, there is a waterfall with 2 giant statues. This is referencing the Valley of the Yen, a location in the Naruto anime. Before October 2015, free spells did not affect defending air units, meaning if a dragon popped out of a clan castle, it couldn't be frozen. It was ground only. As you know, Sneezy becomes enraged if the hero dies. The game doesn't tell you how long this lasts, but I guess I will. It's 5 minutes. However, because battles are shorter than 5 minutes, you never get to see Sneezy go back to normal, except in single player battles where you have infinite time. By keeping her in a recall spell for over 5 minutes, the enraged effect will end. Despite the laboratory being housed by wizards, the lab assistant isn't qualified to be a wizard, which is why the research potion has no effect on him. If a hero has custom skin spawn units and those units are clones, they will always be the default barbarian regardless of the skin. The troop launcher is the only siege machine to destroy itself immediately after reaching its limit, even if it has a large portion of its health left. So guys, those are 50 random facts, and as you can see, random they were. I hope you guys have been enjoying this series thus far. I always find it fun looking for these interesting bits of information, even if they're like insignificant or useless. I enjoy the hunt. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. But hey, YouTube thinks you'll like this next video, so why don't you check it out? As always, see you guys in the next one. Peace.